All right, here we go. Oh my gosh, episode 11. So now I feel like I have to have a some sort of structure here, but I know it's been a while since I've done one of these episodes. I think I said when we first started doing this that we were going to do it every few weeks, but then like life has happened and I kind of had that choice I had to make. Do I want to give up or do I want to just set new, expectations? So I want to keep doing it. I want to have fun, but that means I might not be able to do it as often as I'd like. But that makes each one that we do very special. And I'm super excited. I know I always say that, but this one specifically, I beg this guest to come on. He's such a dear friend. So what we're going to be talking about today is really how the film and the television entertainment industry in general is being disrupted by AI. And Tom Johnson is here with us today. I'll let him give a brief intro, but why I asked him to join is he has a really unique perspective inside the industries, lives in LA, and we're going to be talking about sort of how that industry is disruptive. Michelle and I love to talk about disruption, but since we haven't seen each other in forever, Michelle, do you want to give an update or say anything, or before we let Tom give his intro?
No. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the pod. Super excited to dive into this particular topic. It's at the heart of where I started my sort of sales career in the internet at the intersection of tech and media, early streaming. So a very disruptive moment. And I'm really excited to meet you, Tom, and to get our discussion going. And Damie, you and I always have so much to talk about. So I'm excited. And, right now I'm a free agent out there on the market.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm looking for my next place to, lead more disruption with emerging tech and, really large strategic clients. So we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. All right. So, Mr. Johnson, is that right to call you that?
Yes,
I don't
absolutely.
know.
Please, Mr. Johnson.
Please, please tell
Tom
us about
Johnson was my
yourself.
dad. Mr. Johnson will work just fine.
There you go. I love it.
Oh, I'm crying
No,
already. Okay. Tell us who you are.
tell us. It's a very good question. My name's Tom Johnson. I went to film school a million years ago and studied business economics and film at the University of Texas, and moved out to LA from Texas to pursue my career in Hollywood. I started at a big talent agency in the TV lit side, that which represents writers. And in those days, it was, a very cyclical seasons of pilot season and selling season and pitch season, and and staffing season. And so it was very, you could set your watch to it. The networks would read 1,000 pilots, maybe 200 pilots, because they would pick from the certain agencies. They would pick 100 of those that they would buy. That's 100 writers that are all getting little paychecks. They would develop and maybe go to pilot on 10, and then maybe 3 would make it to air. So it was a very, pyramid like system too, but it generated a lot of wealth because there was money to be made in the banana stand. There was advertisers needed to get their product in front of people, and TV was the best method. The internet was just some place where college kids were playing around. Um, this was post the 99 tech bust.
Right.
So, it was definitely the perfect time for a show like The Sopranos to sort of come on the air and become like a really impressive like family story that just happened to be about the mob, as sort of the
Yeah.
backdrop. And so it was the first, of peak TV, in that it was something special that you would rather go spend, the 60 hours or so with this family and learn that story and that trajectory and those character arcs and those seasonal arcs, as opposed to a movie, which, at the most would be either 3 hours or, 3 hours and then a sequel, and you'd have to wait, 3 years or so for that to come out. So the TV business was a great time to be in the TV business then. And of course, it wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to be on making movies.
Right.
So in a classic, kind of Hollywood situation, I went away because everything was so cyclical. You could go away for, let's say, a sibling's wedding abroad. And when I went away for 9 days and came back, the agent I worked for had left the company.
Oh.
And I had no office, no computer.
Oh,
And so,
man.
yeah.
Man.
And so it was a great introduction to the craziness.
Change.
The offer was, listen, if you want to stay in the TV business, come with me. If you want to get into features, which I know you had talked about, stay at the big agency and transition. So I did.
Okay.
And I've
Awesome.
worked for a big feature agent and got to see, that side of the chaos and the craziness. There was, these were $20 million deals for some of our clients. And it was a fun, hobnobbing time. And I was, 22, 23, and had, the college pace of drinking and then getting up and being ready to go first thing in the morning. College really prepared me to work at a talent agency really well. So I thrived.
Oh, man.
No, but I went there knowing I didn't want to be a agent. I wanted to be a producer on the creative side, but the agency was essentially the graduate school of Hollywood in those days, and it still
Interesting.
is. It's just I can't even begin to imagine how to get in at this point. Um,
Why
and
didn't you ever wanna
so
be an actor? Or did you?
no,
He laughs. He
no,
giggles.
never,
Never?
never.
Okay.
I did it in high school, as Damie might
That's where I'm
Damie might be
alluding to.
surprised to
Oh, no.
learn. But no,
My
that was never in the cards. I enjoyed comedy, but I that was not a path. And so, and working at a talent agency, you start to have a real disregard for talent.
Oh. Oh, no. Sorry,
You
I
kind
have to
of like,
plug in
oh
my,
god, because you're dealing with the most insecure people in the
Oh,
world,
okay. I'm gonna
and
plug in
so
my computer, and then I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna hope that we've
maybe we'll
changed
cut
the
this part
subject on
out,
that.
but you definitely kind of see it from the other side, and it was again. But I'm spending way too much time in the early days. I had the opportunity to go work at a new company that was run by big producers that had Oscar pictures in their resume, and so I went to take some abuse and learn how the sausage is made, and learned a lot of good stuff. Learned a lot of stuff that is important to know. I don't want to be that. But like that's part of, I think, coming up in the business. You take a lot of abuse because you think that there is a lesson to learn from it, and that might be an antiquated kind of look at work now, but it's what we did in the aughts. After working for a seller, a producer, where we're trying to sell our movies, and we had some TV shows on the air, the opportunity to go work at a studio was too good an opportunity to pass up. So I went and worked at a major studio and was there for 2 years, and we put out some great movies, put out some bad movies, but it was a fun time because at the same time, you still had these, like, The Sopranos started this thing, and then FX came along, and HBO continued to put out good stuff, and you had the build of really good TV, where the stories, and kind of with cable, the old days of, you can't put that on TV, you only can do that, whatever, whether it's sex or language or violence, was really reserved for the safe cathedrals of movie theaters, and those kind of rules kind of went away, and you could start to do anything on TV,
And is that
and
good?
cable
'Cause
started to.
as you're saying that, I'm sitting here thinking of myself at, like, 7 o'clock in the evening when I'm watching TV with my kids and this terrible stuff comes on, and I'm like, "What is wrong with these people? There's kids watching." Do you
Well,
think
but that was,
it's good that the
I'm
rules are
talking,
removed?
this was in the aughts, and I think as basic cable that kind of became, you know uh, hell, we remember we were in high school when the NYPD Blue, like, the big moment where they show Sipowitz's butt or something. It's like those sort of little drip and drip kind of
Oh,
build.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So it's not a new thing. It's just it's the nature of things where we get desensitized to something that we're not used to seeing. Um, anyway, so I'm at the studio. We're making movies, and what's exciting is it's a you work on something for 2 years, from idea to to finish script to casting to production, then the editing, which is its own beast. I had
Mhm.
a boss, very great boss once, who said every movie really there's three movies in it. There is the movie you buy. You buy the script thinking this is the movie you're making. There's the
Mhm.
movie you end up shooting
Right.
once it gets through the whole process with cast and talent has an opinion and the director kind of makes their changes, and then you're editing and you're testing it against what some audience in Arizona or Northern California, where you go and you test these things in St. Louis and see, like, what do people like. It is art and commerce,
Right.
and it's show business. We're not here doing this out of the nature of our heart. We want to make something that the most amount of people will stop what they're doing and go to a theater and see it. And so that sort of testing process yielded, sometimes it did the best movie, sometimes it didn't, but it still resulted in you putting out the movie that you think the most people are going to want to see. And then on Monday morning, or really Sunday night, we get, we know what the numbers are. Where you know how you did. I was the number one movie in the year with this box office. This is where I rank with all the other movies that ever came out on this weekend. I beat that other studio, and it was it was fun and exciting because you knew who your competition was, and you knew um, that people were going to the movies to see something, and they're hoping that they picked, because that was where you went for really interesting content. You couldn't get that at home yet. And then again,
Dun dun dun.
dun dun dun. Well, and so you also have, I mean, it's a whole confluence of circumstances, but you did have better TV getting put out, and you had the superhero projects that started to be bigger budgets, and so studios could take lesser risk. You also had studios that did take big risks on things that I still don't understand why they did it. Like, Disney spent over $200 million on John Carter of Mars, which was it was the original IP that inspired all these other things, like the original comic book, because they owned it, that came out 40, 50 years ago, inspired Star Wars. It inspired all these other things,
Mhm.
and they developed it and put it out with cast, and everyone's like, I've seen it before. They didn't
Right.
care that it was the original idea. They didn't care that it was the first.
Hmm.
They cared that in the context of, I'm going to the movies to see something that looks like bad special effects and a Star Wars knockoff. I don't care. So they didn't go, and it was a bomb, and studio lost a ton of money, and that's the way it goes. This is a speculative business, and there's lots of speculative businesses and industries in the world. Hollywood is no different. It's just there's a little bit more ethereal magic to it, into
Okay.
what
So
can lead to
so
a
let
hit.
m so let me stop you, and before we get too far, I definitely wanna give, like, how we know each other, and then I wanted to, kind of reference something that I had heard from you in our first conversation and sort of tie it to what you just said.
Yeah.
So, um, it's funny because after we caught up or whatever last week or whenever it was, I was thinking to myself, I don't know anybody else that I knew when I was so young before, like, all the bad things in my life that happened to me that, like, made me, have to go to therapy or whatever, like, when I was, like, the purest me, and
Yeah.
you and I know each other from there. So, he and I, went to junior high together and then went to high school together, and we were part of I was also thinking this is weird. We were part of competitive theatrics. Is it fair to say that? Did you know? Did you know that
Sure.
people do that, Michelle? Did you know that people actually, like, get so we
No.
would compete with the other high schools and like do a little play or whatever. And our little group of people, and we were just such a little tight group of, what is it, 5 or 6, 7, 8, however many people that were in this little group that went to high school together. We were in theater and we did these trips, and I just like the best times of my life in high school that I think back, it's always those periods. And so I don't know, I feel like you and I know each other like at such a young age. So it was exciting to me to get to catch up with you.
We did have a big class that came up that was theatrical and also happened to be in the honors classes. So we're all in the same classes for the most part. And then we'd have theater, and it was like a big group. And we came in and kind of, as sophomores into the high school, sort of, I wouldn't say take over, but we definitely like made a presence. And so we were just a big class of theater nerds and dorks.
Yeah. Nerd. It's so funny. I was like, how would I describe myself back then? Well, I was probably kind of a nerd. It's not that different than now, I guess.
Yeah.
But you were way more popular than me. Don't lie. You're Mr. Cool. He's part of the cool kids. He was part of the cool kids that were real popular and the theater nerds. He like found a way. He's like super. That's why I'm not surprised. Like, oh, you're in the people business a little bit.
I don't know what to say to that. When you're in it, you don't ever feel like you're in it. And I never felt like I knew I had gone to elementary school with like the cool kids, but then we all kind of took our paths, and I maintained like, hey, but there wasn't like a spending the weekend going to the parties. It was a weird time, as I was also an athlete that played soccer. And so I was I was in 3 different groups, and everyone thought, oh no, you're the soccer guy. And so, oh no, you're the nerd, or you're the drama dork. So
right.
That's
it's interesting. It's funny that like we go by these stereotypes, and I think it's kind of relevant to our conversation when we think of art, or we think of the process of creation. We think of it coming from a creative place, obviously, and we'll often seem to think that you're either creative or technical, and that's just not true anymore. You can be both.
Preach, Michelle.
I mean, listen, I mean, you have, I mean, yeah, no, I think when you learn more about entertainment and what it takes, the number of people it takes to get a finished product, it is not, it is very much an artistic, again, everyone wants to create the best thing. They want to feel like they worked on The Godfather.
Right.
They know at some point that it's not going to be The Godfather, but for the most part, they take the job and with the high hopes that this is a legacy. And so I think we're full of craftspeople on the, behind the scenes that do, I don't want to put out crap. Sometimes you get to the point where it's, you're doing the best with what you have, and the fact that you can get it made is great. But
there are so many more avenues now. It's almost like film has been democratized by, our phones, and I mean, it's a confluence of so many things, right? Like, of course, social. I mean, at the end of the day, you can be a filmmaker just with your phone now. Did anyone ever think that was possible? I guess we thought maybe walking around with our little portable video cameras,
right?
But and I use it. This was like the small size. Remember when they were like, sitting on.
Well, we thought it would be for TV. We thought it'd be, if anything, for
TV,
avenue. Like the reality TV kind of became. And so, to sort of fast forward. So after I left the agency, I was an executive at a production company, and up until the writer strike before this last one where we lost our deal, followed by the global meltdown. And so which kind of gave a new rebirth to reality TV. So studios needed something to put on air, and they threw a bunch of money into creating all kinds of schlock. But it was like, again, it was people with a camera and an idea, and like going to find great human stories. Yes.
I will watch 90 Day Fiancé on absolute binge way before I will ever watch a Marvel movie. So
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it's reality. So when we talked last time, things that I heard from you that I really love is how you even now you're expressing this sort of like this respect for the art and the craftsmanship and the process of creativity. And you mentioned that the last time, but then on the flip side, you're a businessman, and we talk to business people all the time because Michelle and I are in that. And I'm hearing so many of the same things that happen in business. We got to figure out how to go faster. We got to make a profit. We want to beat our competitors. We want to be, digital transformation. How can we make the most amount of money with the least amount of work? So if that is really true, then why would there be pushback against? I think I'm touching
well,
on it. The pushback is from the creators. The pushback is not
well.
from the film companies saying, I can make a lot of money way fast and I don't need you, pain in the ass actor.
Well, if I may, what I was describing was the way things were. That was,
Yeah.
and I was doing a very slow, and I apologize for the
No,
sort of
no,
history of the last 20
no, it's
years.
great. It's
That's how
good.
things were. The reason I
Yeah.
mentioned this, like Monday morning, let's see who's
Yeah.
number one, number two, number three, because that's all that matters.
Yeah.
We do. I am no longer competing with other producers on weekends because half the time, um, the numbers of like just ticket sales are down. People don't go to the movies like they are or like they used to. And a lot of theater, like right now, like this, right? I'm speaking in a very specific time period, right here in the summer of or fall of 24. Um, the It'll just end up, new movies are coming out on streaming services, and so they don't care what the numbers are. They'll say, "Oh, we had 180 million hours watched," and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, "Okay, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean to
Yeah.
anybody?" And so there's the metrics have changed,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Netflix was a big part of sort of changing that conversation for better for worse, and it is. It's not. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that the metrics have changed, so there's not really a competition between me and the other producers or the studios necessarily. I mean, there's still like, hey, here's our money that we made. It's the biggest movie in the world right now, but it's not how like it used to be because there were 6 studios all trying to put a movie out a week.
Yeah.
Like if you think about that, like they were putting out at least a movie every. Like I think we had a 16 picture slate in '06. And so that's like that's 2 movies a
A lot
month.
of month. Yeah.
And you want like yours to be like and it's all very calculated. Like we're not just putting movies out because it's ready. Like you're all right, this is a movie that's going to appeal to this audience. Well, when are they available to see it? Ooh,
Right.
let's come out on the Wednesday before a 3-day weekend because we know, and then we'll do the midnight showings on Tuesday. And so it'll just like how do we
Build.
make this the most like you do not want to miss this event because on Monday morning or Tuesday morning when you go back to school, you don't want to be left out.
Right.
There is this notion that there is this scarce thing, and there's only so many tickets, so you better come see it.
That's the FOMO, right?
Scarcity. It's the
Yeah.
scarcity of this entertainment of this product.
Mhm.
To boil it down, I might have mentioned this when we talked earlier. I'm no longer competing with other producers trying to make movies right now. I'm
Okay.
competing with time because every movie in the world that's ever been, every Oscar-winning film, every five-star movie, TV show, or great film, or wonderful is available to watch anywhere, anytime on a screen as small as my phone or as big as my home theater that and that is eyeball time.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say that's reach. You'd think you'd be happy
no
about that.
longer no longer is this
The
glitzy,
scarcity.
this no longer is that scarce.
Oh,
And
I see.
so, and not to mention what the influence of more user generated stuff has created, because that is, to a younger generation, like that is everything. Like it is
Right.
immediate. We don't need it to be perfectly edited. We don't need to be, to not see a shadow. We just need it to be good enough. And it got me thinking kind of about, our youth, kind of the Napster generation of, well, the audio files are like, why would you listen to this song that's only playing at X, bits per minute, or the quality is not good, but it was good enough.
Yeah.
The quality on your a compressed MP3 was just good enough because it's on my headphones. I don't care. I'm coming from 20 odd years of trying to make the highest quality of product with hundreds of people behind it, that from various little doing their piece, and the producer is kind of the glue that holds it all together. They start with the project and carry it all the way to the end. Everyone sort of comes in and does their contribution, but a producer is the one that it holds it all together. The audience is like, it's good enough. This is good enough.
Right.
I don't have time for a movie. I'll do 20 minutes of TikTok. I'll do 30 minutes of this. And that is the nature, that is the state of the business as we figure out how to be, special and relevant. Is it, making these 4D theaters where wind is blowing in your face when you go see Twister? Is it making the chairs start to rattle? I don't know. I don't know. But this has nothing to do with AI. But I'm just
No,
trying to
I
give you
have a comment about that.
Yeah.
When I went to Disneyland, Disney World, finally, I wanted to go my whole childhood. My parents never took me because we were poor. As an adult, I got a chance to take myself. I was sitting in the Little Mermaid, like, live thing, where it's like you're talking about, the like 4D or whatever, everything's moving. And there was like a mist of the ocean that sprayed on me, and I cried. I like full on wept. I was like, oh my God, my childhood is okay now. Like, that stuff matters. That stuff
I
matters.
thought you were going to say, oh my God, I am a mermaid.
That's so funny. Yeah, mermaids are
No,
awesome.
but I mean, it's those, there's so much being developed around the content. Now there's no scarcity of content because there's so much out there, because it's been democratized because of the social media platforms. But I liked one of the things you said there, Tom, is that, you're no longer competing with other producers, you're competing for time or, excuse me, eyeballs. But I wonder then if AI enables us to achieve, extra time in creation of content, and if there's some way that changes the game. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just,
I was gonna ask you if I could create like a co-pilot, a genie bot, whatever it is, something that would work with you, that would help you as a producer move things faster or do things that you would normally take a lot of paperwork or whatever, and expedite those sort of manual, laborious processes. Would you ever try something like that?
I think I would, if there was, something. What you have to remember is that what made these, it's not AI, right? These are large language libraries, or
Models. Yep.
thank you, models. What are those models of? Where did they get their, like, where did they
The
cull
training
all this
data.
information?
Yeah,
They read what humans wrote down, right?
yes. Yes.
So these are ultimately, from my perspective and from, again, and it's
You're,
evolving. I'm not saying
you're
I'm
right so
anti
far.
AI, but it's a plagiarism machine. It's
Yeah,
plagiarizing
you
what?
mentioned that last time, like churning out mediocrity, and I've heard a lot of people use that
Yes.
sort of phrase, and it's
You
like,
already have, go on Amazon, and you have probably over millions at this point, because people have, like, jumped on it immediately. Self-published fan fiction, half written by AI.
yeah,
And so how does, it is, I'm not saying that that's going to take away from the next Stephen King, but it just it chums the water for, like,
yeah.
people that are really dedicated to, listen, talent will always win out. I'm not saying AI
like
is
Scarlett
the enemy.
Johansson, like Scarlett Johansson's voice.
Like Scarlett Johansson's voice, they couldn't make a deal to use her voice, or she said outright, no, you can't do it. And so they did it anyways, and tweaked it a
They
little bit so
tried
that it's
to,
not, they tried
right,
to. And now, but thank God, Scarlett Johansson, the biggest stars in the world, has a legal team that can do that.
to fight
That's
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
what if it wasn't them? And I guess that's the other part, when you work out here and you meet people that are all came out to Hollywood with their own individual dreams to be something. They find ways to make money, and sometimes it's not the way that they thought they were. Like, actors become voice actors, and writers become writing jingles, or again, there's, like, you make, while you pursue the biggest goal, You find ways to make money
You
that are
have to
obviously all
eat.
legal.
Yes.
You have to scrap and you have to fight. And I know writer friends that work for companies that like write boner pill like advertisements,
Right.
but they'll still write something that gets made and put into theaters. So it's like,
Sure.
my point being, the voice acting, I feel bad for all those actors that like wanted to be, they're trying to be actors. They found voice acting to be a great sort of middle ground to sort of pay the bills. And now this AI notion that, oh, well, these can all just be replaced because I can say, I want a Morgan Freeman that sounds like a Morgan Freeman with a German accent. And it just, again, it has to rip off something that already existed. I also don't think that for the most part, the audience knows what they want.
True.
The audience knows what they'll watch or they'll choose to digest, but they don't know what they want. And yes, I love the notion as a producer that I could say, read the script and tell me what it's about. Half the time I'm reading, I can read in the first 3 pages and tell you if this writer is talented because of the way that the page moves, the way that the dialogue, or the way that there's like the
The way it
efficiency.
makes you feel, is that probably what it is? The way it makes you feel.
It's just the way that they use the language. There are too many, like, you can immediately tell who has never read a script, but they've written a script.
That's
I'm like,
terrible.
what is the point of, it's people not willing to do the work. And the old curmudgeon-y guy of me is like, I hope AI doesn't just become a shortcut for everybody, to find shortcuts and not actually learn the rules before you break the rules.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 comments, and I'll also let Michelle give her thoughts before we push it back to you for your rebuttal. So the first thing I was gonna say is that I asked a younger person, my 10-year-old son. Okay, I asked a person this morning, as a younger person, if you had like a favorite character or a TV show or like something that you're a fan of, and they were going to come out with a new movie, and you found out that it was all made by AI. It was all like, would that affect, would you not watch the
Yeah,
movie? Would it affect? And
of
he
course.
looked at me and he was like, people are already doing that. The computer animation. And like, to him, it didn't seem like he
Yeah,
would need to
to a
be
10-year-old, yeah.
disclosed. And it's just normal and to be expected. But here's why I bring this up. Here's a twist. I said to him, oh, you know that girl on that show that you got a crush on that you watch all the time? And he's like, yeah. And I said, if you found out she wasn't real and you had been like, no, that would ruin my. I said, why? Is it because there's this tiny part of you that thinks you could meet her one day and marry her? He's like, yes. So some people say they don't want AI disclosed, but then when it's like the possibility of, your ability to meet this person, that he would want it disclosed. So that's kind of
Yeah.
strange. The younger generation, that's why I really wanted to bring it up, is like, as you mentioned, content patterns are changing, and the younger generation, like, maybe good or bad, maybe they don't have that heart or that respect for art
No,
like we
I
do,
don't.
and they're just like,
I
look, I want the boom boom and the flash flash and the sparkle, and I'm, and I
Please don't
want.
misinterpret my like apprehension for it as what I expect the consumer to care about. I am fully aware consumers don't care. Like, what I think what I was trying to get to, which
They
was sort
might
of the
though.
Napsterification, which is, it's good enough. Like, it doesn't have to be Hollywood quality. It just has to be good enough. I can get on my phone. It entertains me for 20 minutes or 15 or 5 minutes. I choose how long I'm going to be addicted to this, app, or
Mm-hmm.
so I think. Uh, I'm just sort of giving you what, I guess, what I feel like the reason that AI can do those things is because all the clearly all the apps, the Adobe apps that artists were using to create these things, they're keeping tabs on how it was done, and now that's how it can be done. But without that sort of work that was put in, I'm not trying to stop the tides from rising and falling. It's a I'm curious to see what the future. I don't expect the audience to care that it's AI or not. That it wasn't they didn't care about the guy doing rotoscope in Bangladesh, because that's where most of the little small erasing of lines happens. All these like post-production things get sent to Vancouver, they get sent to Central, Asia, Central Europe, Southeast Asia, where there's just the guys, all they have is like a couple of frames and they just like are cleaning it up. And yes, that could be, fixed with AI. Hooray. I don't know that that's going to make better movies. That's so, I don't know. I'm just I was just trying to give a broader sense of, we wouldn't have these abilities if we didn't have the artists doing them already.
No, I totally agree. Training data. Michelle's super passionate about that as well. Is there something you wanted to add in, Michelle?
I
I didn't want to. I just thought we should change gears. I'm not trying to like piss off our guest here. So
I'm not pissed off at all. I was trying to give some when you say like my 10-year-old doesn't care, I'm like, well, I wouldn't expect him to care. Like I wouldn't expect you guys to necessarily care. I do so have this like vision of you ever see y'all seen The Dark Knight?
Yes.
Is that the Batman movie with Christian Bale?
The Batman movie. The opening scene where the Joker's, they're doing a bank heist, and every step along the way they're like, yeah, we're gonna cut this, but Joker said to kill you after this, and it's like no one thinks they're the last partner, and I think like no one thinks that they're the last piece of the puzzle that's about to be offed until they are.
Sure.
And I think that the tech industry right now with their layoffs is probably facing a little bit of that. It's like, I can't be replaced. I'm, it's the music industry had it. The film business has had it. The TV business is going through that. And again, we're all affected by this disruption. And right now we're all, I think, figuring out like where the next forward path is to a business that makes money and can, afford us all to all live the lives of comfort that we deserve. Damn it. And that's my soapbox, statement.
Well, one thing I was thinking is, at the end of the day, like the original studios before like streaming or anything, right? They had the money to create the better content. And so I think even though we talk about AI sort of democratizing things, at the same time, I also think it will eventually get to a point where access to information is to get the best access to information, the best AI model or LLM or, whatever solution, you have to pay more. And that's where, because of the power consumption, its tech footprint, et cetera. And I think, we're going to see those power dynamics, and that's big tech as well, right? Like big tech is already swallowing up a lot of these AI startups. And, does competition really have a fair place out there? I mean, that's a little bit different from what we were talking in terms of media, but I just think it is a bigger concern. And I don't know how you win that. I like the notion that I can be a creator and create content on my own. I definitely don't have the best tools. I don't have the most time. I don't have a team, but the fact that I can, create a video is amazing. And so, I think then we can start to see, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about storytelling, right? So then you start to see technology getting into storytelling, beyond the aesthetic into, let's just create personalized storylines. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's sure, choose your own adventure is certainly cool. But at the same time, I think what we'll never lose is this unifying experience that we have about, a big piece of content release, like a movie or, and I think I'm seeing a lot of these players trying to come up with different ways to create that experience now, to give a holistic experience, kind of like you were explaining with the sea salt from, the mermaid, or in the sphere, the smells, and just, the overarching interactivity of, music. And so I think that will be interesting, because I think, we're still humans. And even though we like to have personal stories, we also really do like to unite over, reality TV or, a movie release or something like that. So I think that's interesting. And then the other thing that I want to talk about, but we may not have time, is the whole plagiarism. In fact, I'm in the middle of writing a blog about this where I'm like, how will we eventually like show that things are not plagiarized? And like, are there really any original ideas anymore? Our ideas are coming from a consciousness within and what we're seeing. And, it's like, as a kid, I really tried to convince my family and my best friend that I created the word duh.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. I want a t-shirt now that says "duh," and I'm gonna wear
Yeah,
it in honor of you. Like
created
Romeo
by
and
Michelle.
Michelle invented Post-its, you invented "duh." That's adorable.
I did, right? But I believed it,
Aw.
but who knows who was the first person who ever created duh? I don't know. So I think there's so many wide, things to think about in this
Yeah.
arena. I really appreciate it, Tom, for you bringing us your point of view, being right there in it. I mean, I had the experience of, in the late 90s, actually. I mean, I was just this 26-year-old who happened to get involved in the internet and, was very interested in it from a media perspective and landed at a streaming media startup. And I was able to go and get meetings at Disney and, Warner Brothers. It was insane. Like, why are they letting this 26-year-old girl come and tell them something? It was because they did not understand the internet,
Yeah, I
and they
believe it.
needed, to understand it. And I tell this story all the time where I would say to them, imagine if you could create a piece of content once, but you could distribute it, twice online and, through your regular channels, your regular distribution channels. Think of the money it will save you. And then of course, and they're like, yes, and you pay us for that content. I'm like, no, welcome to the internet. You pay us for the delivery of that content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
then,
Well,
so
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that kind of became why the Warner Brothers discoveries and the Comcast, through Peacock, kind of burned through a few $1 billion in the last few years, trying to say, "Oh well, we waited. We're just going to create our own Netflix because that's just a website," and
right.
spent billions of dollars, billions to reach that epiphany that
It's harder
we
than they
can't.
thought.
It's so much harder than we thought. We don't have, you know and there was
Yeah,
also the change of free money, the change in the cost of money. You know,
sure.
Mon- Private equity is going to go where there's an opportunity, and for interest rates to be at zero for so long, like of course, like Netflix was at the right place at the right time to get that cheap money, and then was super smart about changing the metrics by what success means. The minute that they said we no longer going to release subscriber numbers, like Wall Street's like, oh, well, what are you going to do? It's like, hours watched, because we know that we have the most subscribers of anyone. So we can just say
But
that.
are
We
they
don't care
watching?
about we don't care what our this month or this quarter and next quarter, what our subscriber numbers are. Doesn't matter. What's important is how many hours they spend on ours. And you had, again,
It's
Peacock
not
and
fair. You got
Paramount
autoplay.
Global, and I know, but the point
Thanks
was
on
they changed the conversation.
Of
Yeah.
course.
And
Yeah,
so
well,
they had finally crossed the river of unprofitability, and it was everyone else was like, wait, what? Like, and so now Wall Street looks at the other players and was like, why? What are your numbers? What are you? And they're like, we're still working on it, and they got
right.
destroyed for it. So they
And
played
then,
the game.
ironically enough, a lot of these streamers are just going back to the cable model, and we're all just,
They're gonna bundle their streaming, but like
yeah.
cable itself is I mean, that's like no one's it's not like there is no one adding cable to their consumption package, right? It's only like it's our fathers and grandfathers who are watching Fox News, and they're the ones keeping the cable around.
That's so true. Okay, so I'm looking at
So
the time. I think we should kind of get towards the end, but I wanted to ask you, okay, so what are you doing now? We talked about the evolution and your journey. Are you doing anything now in response? You.
to me personally, to the responsive
Yeah.
AI,
Yeah.
I'm doing the best with what we've got. I'm in the process of selling a feature to Netflix. I'm in the process of pitching a TV show to buyers, that's based on a cool book and great writers. I am developing again. I'm kind of doing the same thing we've been doing for a while, which is finding stories, great books, great ideas or articles, and kind of figuring out, like, does this need to exist in the biggest possible way? Is it, whether it's a movie, or is it a character story that needs to be drawn out over 5 seasons?
Oh,
12
interesting.
episodes a season. So, like, that's kind of how I'm looking at it, and then at the same time, kind of keeping an eye on the horizon for, like, what is the next path for our industry, as it, again, I can't help but sort of like look to the past, the way that the music recording industry was affected. It had all this wealth and then imploded and was rebuilt, and it came back to, oh, artists can go out and perform, and artists will continue to make money. We can put out albums, but they're not going to be like, it's a way of life, but it's not, mansions on the Hollywood hills, and that's fine. And so, Hollywood's sort of feeling that after our most recent strike. COVID, we haven't even talked about, that
Yeah.
sort of disruption of consumption habits was, really something that can't be, tossed aside. Like, we
Right.
went from, my weekly, like, the audience that weekly went to a movie, and so whether to see something, like, that stopped, and they haven't really come back. A
Yeah,
lot of
at
people,
a threat of death. I mean, it was
yeah,
pretty severe, the
yeah.
threat, the
I
fear.
mean, Barbie. I forget the statistic. I apologize, but you can put on a little scroll underneath me. Go back and look how many people. Barbie was their first movie back in the theater after the pandemic.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
interesting.
It's a lot. It's like, I want to say it's like 45%, somewhere in that, like that was their first movie, and the pandemic had been over for, over a year by that point. And so, that's, if they're not going into the theaters, they're at home, streaming, and or on TikTok. So,
Yeah.
um, what AI is going to mean for videos on TikTok and Instagram? That's a conversation I'd love to watch and know more about. But
Yeah.
um, I hope I've been, somewhat. Again, I feel like I was more of a history lesson than a, here's the future of AI in Hollywood. It's just more of a, I think we're all trying to figure out what the next path is.
No, I think here's why I think it's helpful. One, people that are not in the industry like you are, they don't know that. They don't know how
Yeah.
things get done. They don't know how the process is. And so that's an education, first of all. We have people that listen to this that are like Michelle and I, like business consultants that work with NBC Universal and work with these. So those conversations will be helpful for them to be able to have a better context. And
Yeah.
also, I would always have you on again. We could talk about another topic,
Yeah.
something, whatever. But so I have like a final question to both of you. But I always want to. I feel like I take over these conversations. I want to see, Michelle. Do you have any other party? She has a really interesting perspective because of her background with the streaming media. So just where do you think things are going, Michelle?
Oh man. I think it's still a bit unknown. I think a lot of traditional media companies are modernizing, their content, and readying all of that data so that they can use it for AI systems. So, it was the first time since like 1999, I'll say 2023 was the first time since like 1999 that I was like, wow, I want to go and talk to Disney again about how they're going to leverage AI to disrupt, their business. And I
Yeah.
just felt like it was it's that cataclysmic of a moment in innovation history for us.
Yep.
And and it was also not lost on me during COVID when Disney finally launched Disney Plus. I'm like, oh my God, it literally took 20 years because
Yeah.
in 99 they invested $10 million in our startup, that went public, and then it was the dot bomb. And and at the same time that entire arena was also being uh, the money it was being pumped in it through, at the time, real networks and Microsoft. So, when you see Microsoft's engagement with OpenAI now, I'm like, they're just doing it again. They're seeding the
Right.
market. I think AI is accelerating, a heck of a lot more quickly. But yeah, and then yeah, I'm just really over commercials though. Like in the streaming experience, commercials in the streaming experience are just a bad experience, especially on
I
YouTube.
hate them, especially skip ad.
Eh,
I'm like, I want to skip ad faster and more
yeah,
easier, please. But I actually
I'm
started
like,
paying
who
more
who
for the
sits?
ad-free service. So I
Like,
know we're real
why,
I I know
why
we're up
sit
on
and watch a black screen go to half a second of the content back to black screen? I'm like,
yeah, I
no one
know.
has
I
fixed
agree.
the ad
Nobody
insertion
Go
technology.
tell all your people in
What?
the industry, Tom. Nobody likes
Oh,
this. Tell them all.
yeah,
Trust me, that's not there. Yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah. But
so
that's
not
we're
the
up
there.
problem because it is about the user experience.
so we're
Yes, it
up on
is.
time.
Yeah.
We'll definitely try to have another one. So one last question. Favorite
Yep.
movie you could watch 100 times? Tom first. Answer.
Shawshank Redemption
Oh,
or Dark Knight. Yeah.
okay. Michelle. Favorite movie you could watch 100 times?
Well, I don't want to tell it because it's one of my, secrets
Oh,
in
okay.
my
Make it the hard one.
privacy things out there. So I
Make
won't
this a
say that
win.
one. What's another one that I can watch? I mean, The Wizard of Oz, of course.
There you
Absolutely.
go. Okay.
Definitely watch it. No sound, aligned with Pink
Ooh.
Floyd. Yeah,
Oh.
like
I might I
Dark
might
Side of
I
the
might
Moon.
have to
It's
like
incredible.
I might have to try that under an
You
altered state.
should. Yeah, you're
So
That's
gonna
I'm
need to be
that's
filtered.
mandatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go animation, and I'm gonna say My Neighbor Totoro. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna go look it
No.
up. You're gonna look it up. It's
Oh,
beautiful. The
I
characters are
did just see
beautiful, and it's
Inside
written
Out
really well.
too.
Yeah, because I have kids, I
Really
watch
well
a lot of
done.
animation, but yeah, I it's just pure and simple, and it's just the kind of thing I could watch 100 times. Other one would be like Forrest Gump. Probably can never get tired
Oh
of that
yes,
one. All
definitely.
right. Hey, was it fun, Tom? You have to say yes now because you're on
Wonderful.
camera
I
still.
absolutely was. Thank you so much. This was great, Damie. It's nice to be here and talk. I hope I offered something interesting at all. But Michelle's lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Likewise, I think we all have a lot more to chat. So hope to see you on the next one.
All
Look
right.
forward to it.
Well, hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of Butterfly Bytes. See you later.
Peace
Have a good day.
out.